The person you are in private is the person you're becoming in public. There are two versions of you. One walks through the world with a carefully constructed face, polished, presentable. The version that shows up to work, answers messages, smiles at strangers, tells people you're doing fine. This version knows how to perform. It knows what to say, how to act, which emotions to display, and which to hide. It's the self you've built for survival, for acceptance, for navigating a world that rewards appearances. Then there's the other version, the one that only appears when the door closes, when the lights go out, when the performance ends and no one is left to impress. This version doesn't have to pretend. It doesn't have to filter. It doesn't have to be anything other than what it is. And what it is, in that unguarded solitude, is the truth of who you're becoming. Not who you say you are, not who you wish you were, but who you actually are when the audience disappears. Most people don't realize this. They spend their entire lives focused on the public self, the image, the reputation, the way others perceive them. They curate their social media. They dress to impress. They say the right things. They present a version of themselves that looks successful, happy, together. And they believe somewhere deep down that if they can just maintain this performance long enough, it will become real. That the mask will eventually become the face. But it doesn't work that way. Because while you're busy performing for the world, another version of you is being built in secret. In the moments when no one is watching. In the choices you make when there are no consequences. In the habits you practice when there's no one to hold you accountable. That version, the private one, the hidden one, is the real architect of your life. And most people ignore it until it's too late. The public self is easy to manage. You know the rules. Be polite, be professional, show gratitude, act interested, laugh at jokes, avoid conflict, present strength even when you feel weak. The world has trained you well. You've learned how to navigate social expectations, how to earn approval, how to fit into the shape others need you to be. And in this, you've become skilled at something dangerous. You've become skilled at lying to yourself about who you really are. You tell yourself you're disciplined because you show up to work on time. But in private, you waste hours scrolling, numbing, avoiding the work that actually matters. You tell yourself you're kind because you're polite in public. But in private, your thoughts are harsh, judgmental, unforgiving. You tell yourself you're strong because you don't show weakness. But in private, you collapse under the weight of everything you're carrying alone. The public self is a performance. And like any performance, it's exhausting. It requires energy, focus, constant maintenance. You're always monitoring how you're perceived, adjusting your behavior, managing impressions. And the more you perform, the further you drift from the person you are when the curtain falls. The gap widens, and in that gap lives the truth you're afraid to confront. You're not who you pretend to be, and the person you're actually becoming is being shaped in silence, away from eyes, away from judgment, away from accountability. This is where your real life happens. Not on stage, not in public, but in the quiet, invisible hours when you're alone with yourself. In the decision to stay in bed or get up, to eat what nourishes you or what numbs you, to work on your dreams or distract yourself from them, to keep a promise to yourself or break it quietly, knowing no one will notice. These moments feel small, insignificant, but they're not. They're the foundation. They're the architecture of who you're becoming, and no amount of public success can compensate for private failure. Who you are in solitude is who you truly are. Not the version you present at dinner parties or job interviews, not the persona you've crafted for social media or family gatherings, but the self that exists when all the roles fall away. When you're no longer someone's employee, someone's partner, someone's friend. When you're just you, alone, unobserved, free from the pressure to perform. That's when the mask comes off. And what's underneath is either someone you're proud of or someone you've been avoiding. Most people avoid this confrontation. They fill their solitude with noise, TV, music, scrolling, anything to avoid the silence. Because silence has a way of revealing things. It shows you the habits you've been hiding, the addictions you've been justifying, the thoughts you've been suppressing, the version of yourself you don't want to admit exists. And facing that version requires something most people don't have: courage. The courage to look at yourself honestly, without the filters, without the excuses, and say, "This is who I've become." In those private moments, patterns emerge. Patterns you might not even notice because they happen when no one's watching. You say you'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. You promise yourself you'll change, but you don't. You tell yourself you're trying, but deep down you know that you're not. You're coasting. You're choosing comfort over growth, distraction over discipline, the easy path over the right one. And because no one sees these choices, you convince yourself they don't matter. But they do. They matter more than anything else because these are the choices that build your character, and character, unlike reputation, can't be faked. The Stoics understood this. They said character is what you do when no one is watching. Not what you say, not what you intend, but what you do in the dark, in the silence, in the moments when there's no reward, no recognition, no applause. That's where your true self lives. And that self is being shaped every single day by the tiny, invisible choices you make when the world isn't watching. Do you keep your word to yourself? Do you follow through on the commitments you make in private? Do you do the hard thing when it would be easier to quit? Do you choose integrity when there's no witness to hold you accountable? These aren't dramatic moments. They're not the stuff of movies or stories. They're quiet, mundane, unremarkable. But they're everything. Because the person you are in these moments is the person you'll be in every other moment. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your private habits. There's a shadow version of you that only appears when no one is watching. Carl Jung called it the shadow. The part of yourself you don't want to acknowledge, the impulses you suppress, the desires you're ashamed of, the weaknesses you hide. In public, you keep this shadow locked away, but in private, it surfaces. And if you're not careful, if you're not vigilant, it takes control. This shadow is the part of you that procrastinates when you said you'd work, that chooses instant gratification over long-term fulfillment, that breaks promises to yourself because no one will know, that sabotages your progress because growth feels uncomfortable, that drinks too much, scrolls too long, avoids too often. This shadow isn't evil. It's human, but it's also destructive. And the more you let it run your private life, the more it starts to define your public one. Most people don't realize they're being controlled by their shadow. They think they're making conscious choices, but they're not. They're reacting. They're following patterns. They're letting the hidden version of themselves, the one that craves ease and avoids pain, dictate their actions. And over time, this shadow version grows stronger. It becomes the default. And the person you thought you were, the person you present to the world, becomes a lie. A performance with no substance behind it. But here's the truth. You can change this. You can confront the shadow. You can take control of who you are in private. It requires something most people avoid: discipline. Not the kind of discipline that's loud or performative, not the kind you post about or get praised for, but the invisible kind. The kind that happens in empty rooms, in early mornings, in late nights when you're tired and no one would know if you quit. The kind that builds something real beneath the surface. Invisible discipline is the foundation of everything meaningful. It's the writer who writes when no one's reading, the athlete who trains when no one is watching, the person who keeps their word to themselves even when it's hard. It's the decision to do the right thing, not because it earns approval, but because it aligns with who you want to become. This discipline doesn't announce itself, it doesn't seek recognition, it operates in silence, and that's exactly what makes it powerful. The silent hours shape the loud victories. Every public success, every visible achievement, every moment of strength you display to the world is built on a foundation of private discipline. The hours you spent alone, working when you didn't feel like it, the times you resisted temptation when no one would have known, the days you showed up for yourself when it would have been easier to give up. These moments don't make headlines. They don't earn applause, but they build something unshakable. They build character. And character is what remains when everything else falls away.
Most people want the visible results without the invisible work. They want the body without the discipline, the success without the sacrifice, the respect without the integrity. But life doesn't work that way. You can't fake what you build in private. You can't perform your way into genuine strength. You either do the work when no one's watching, or you don't, and the difference shows. Not immediately, but eventually. Because who you are in secret always becomes who you are in public. At some point, you have to face the truth. You have to look at yourself without the filters, without the justifications, without the excuses. You have to see yourself as you actually are, not the version you wish you were, not the version you tell people about, but the version that exists in the quiet moments, the version that makes choices when there's no audience, the version that either keeps promises or breaks them, that either builds or destroys, that either grows or stagnates. This confrontation is uncomfortable. It's like standing in front of a mirror in harsh light. Every flaw is visible, every crack is exposed. Every lie you've told yourself becomes obvious. And the instinct is to look away, to cover the mirror, to retreat back into the performance. But if you want to change, if you want to become someone you're proud of, you have to stay. You have to look. You have to see the gap between who you are and who you want to be. And then you have to close it, not with words, not with intentions, but with action. Quiet, consistent, invisible action. Integrity is doing what's right when no one is watching. It's keeping your word to yourself. It's making the hard choice even when there's no reward. It's aligning your private actions with your public values. Most people think integrity is about how you treat others, and it is. But it's also about how you treat yourself. Do you honor the commitments you make to yourself? Do you follow through on your goals when no one's checking? Do you live by the standards you claim to value? Or do you compromise, justify, and make exceptions when you think no one will notice? The truth is someone always notices you, and you can't lie to yourself forever. Eventually, the gap between who you say you are and who you actually are becomes unbearable. You feel it, the dissonance, the emptiness, the sense that you're living a double life. And that feeling doesn't go away until you bring the two versions of yourself into alignment. Until the person you are in private becomes the same person you are in public. Until there's no more mask, no more performance, just authenticity, just truth. There's a moment every day when your real self appears. It's usually at night, when the obligations end, when the day no longer demands anything from you, when you're finally alone and free to do whatever you want. This is the moment of truth, because what you do in this moment reveals who you are. Do you work on your dreams or scroll mindlessly? Do you take care of your body or numb it? Do you reflect and grow or distract and avoid? The choices you make when the world isn't watching are the choices that define you. Most people waste this time. They collapse into passivity, they give themselves over to whatever is easiest, whatever requires the least effort. And they justify it. They've earned it. They're tired. They deserve a break. And maybe they do. But if every night ends in distraction, if every moment of solitude is spent avoiding yourself, then you're not building anything. You're just passing time. And time once passed never comes back. The person you become is the sum of what you do when no one is watching. The habits you practice in secret, the choices you make in solitude, the discipline you maintain in silence. These are the things that shake your destiny. Not your talent, not your luck, not your connections, but your character. The invisible architecture of who you are when the performance ends. And here's what most people never realize until it's too late. The private self always wins. You can perform publicly for years. You can maintain the image. You can fool others. But you can't fool reality. Eventually, who you are in private becomes who you are everywhere. The habits catch up. The patterns solidify. The shadow takes over. Or, if you've been building something real in the silence, if you've been disciplining yourself in the dark, then that strength emerges, that integrity shows, that character becomes undeniable. You are who you are when no one is watching. And that person is being built right now, in this moment, in every moment of solitude you're given. The question is, who are you building? The version that serves you, or the version that sabotages you? The version you'll be proud of, or the version you'll regret? The choice is yours, but it's not made once. It's made every single day. In silence, in secret, in the moments that feel like they don't matter. They matter more than anything else, because the person you become when no one is watching is the only person you'll ever truly be.